So on the same point, I want you to talk about where do you see the balance? So you talked about three different spectrums. There are large companies, a lot of resources, but large teams, a lot of investments already made, but integration gaps between these tools and either too much of noise or too much of missing out on opportunities, right? Then there are really small companies who don't have the maturity and who may be the most vulnerable. And then the medium or the SMB sector who are aware of these gaps, but may not have enough resources or may have their own, practical challenges. Where is the balance, Chandra? What if you could take or talk about a few examples? Have you seen any balance case scenarios? Any classic approaches which companies have taken to really come out of those difficult business challenges?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And see, that is the challenge we cite, and that's why we created the Sekion ourselves. Because when we started, we had seen it like Target, Home Depot, JP Morgan, Sony, they were breached. And it's like not that they didn't have the intention to protect themselves. Those companies had pretty good investment into the cybersecurity, but still they learned about the breaches from outside. They didn't detect it themselves. And when the investigation happened, they can find the evidence were there. That's right. So it was not because of the they didn't have the data, but they had too much data. If you have too much data, too much knowledge, what you do about it? You don't kind of make it actionable. And if it is not actionable, you can't do anything about it. So what we did is we created a platform from the get-go that, look, in our organization, you have to look into everything into the single context, whether it is a network, that what the things are happening into your application level, services level, host level, their interaction, whether it's the internal interaction, external interactions at within the organizations or outside, or even people coming from remote workforce or even cloud. All of these things, because clouds and everything is now combined together, your on-prem cloud, remote access, mobile access, all of those things have to be looked into the single context, and everything have to be looked together. You cannot have multiple. Once you look together and create a platform which is able to monitor everything and understand the context and understand the application services, what is being monitored, what makes sense, what does not make sense, what I'm seeing right now in this context and situation, what I have seen in the past in this organization, and what is happening around the globe. Once you put all these things together, now you are not coming up with a huge amount of noise. You will see there are certain things going bad in there. And then those things you highlight, that I see that here data collections are happening, exfiltrations are happening in there, or somebody is trying to get into the door, whether they are trying to get into the door through your gateways, or they're trying to get into the door compromising a credential using the keylogger or sending a malware or some of those things in there. And one thing is also you have to kind of admit that some of those things you may miss. So it's not you may always see it. So you have to also be ready that, hey, I can miss one thing, but there are many other things are going to be followed up in there. So just like one side, somebody was telling me one time that, Chandra, as a security kind of a defender side, we have to be right all the time. And I said that, look, that is not always true, because even a attacker, when they are coming in, they have to do multiple things to be successful in the attack. So if they have to get through the door, they have to make a kind of home in your organization. They have to communicate and get the next set of the kind of the activity, what need to be done. They have to discover your asset and kind of start collecting the asset, find out where are those gates are open to collect the data, which data can be collected. So there is a lot of things they have to be successful to kind of be a successful attack out there too. So if you had a solution, you are just like, so a lot of time, if you look into recently in the industry breaches, people just talk about that credential got breached, and then they were able to collect 37 gigabyte of source code and exfiltrate it, or they took multiple terabyte of like design file and they exfiltrated. Those things, not a engineer goes out and kind of takes multiple terabyte of like design files, or not a particular engineer takes 37 gigabytes of like source code like every day. So those activities should be very easy to detect, and when they are acting, how they are acting in conjunction to their peer and all that, you should be able to monitor. So the thing is, like, key point is that real-time monitoring with the context and situation awareness is very important. If you don't have it, then I just get like, let's say I got Saurabh credential. With the Saurabh credential, if I go in and I'm able to take all of your company's crown jewel assets in there, which you have the access to, which is basically is like my company monitoring system detection has failed because Saurabh does not go every day collecting those data and looking into all those files and all that in there. This is something exception is happening. You should know about it and say, okay, this doesn't make sense. If I'm coming at the time which Saurabh never wakes up, or coming from a machine where Saurabh never comes from, or coming from so there is like so many features you have where Saurabh can be tied to those features, and there are deviations happening, and those are like going far. You want to take actions on those. So that is just something really critical that you have to realize. So when we develop our platform, we say that, hey, this is not something we are developing just for the big organization who can afford like those $500,000 or $1 million kind of like tools and operation together. But even for the small company, if I make a platform which is multi-tier, multi-tenancy, you can take that same solution and you can give it to the people who have like 100 people organization. If you look into their neural network and all that, or their machine learning environment will be much more smaller than somebody who have 500,000 nodes in there. That's right. So, and you can make it cost effective for both of them so they can afford to have that solution. And that's what we have done. And I'll give a credit to your team because your team have a lot of talented people. They question us that, hey, we have some organization, younger organization, which are getting born in the cloud itself, what we can do for them in the cloud and how we kind of like bring all the telemetry together and be on the proactive side. And we showed them the solution. We work with them and kind of like we are still kind of doing some innovation with your team, which we will be even discussing next week, that, hey, these are some of the other things we want to add on to the solution. So thanks to your team, they are pretty innovative team you have as well. And we really appreciate their kind of insight and the feedback, what need to be done to address those customers who are getting born in the cloud itself.
Awesome.